Welcome everyone. Long time no see. Welcome back to Sock and Talk. I am so sorry for taking so long getting another video out. But like everyone else at the moment, I was just not feeling particularly inspired to create anything on YouTube really. But I'm here, I'm making the video, and I'm really excited because I want to get going on new books and actually enjoy my last few days of freedom as I am going back to work soon. Fortunately from home, but still going to be working. Without further ado, let's start talking about The Outsider. It is written by Stephen King, published in 2018. It's 560 pages with a 4.5 or 4 out of 5 Goodreads rating and 92% of respondents, or whatever you want to call them, enjoying the book. So let's start with a little author info. Stephen King was born September 21st, 1947, making him 72 years old, in Maine. He is a horror, supernatural fiction, suspense, fantasy, etc. writer, best known for his horror stories. He has published 61 novels, has written under several pen names, including Richard Bachman, John Swithern, Beryl Evans, etc. He has written 6 nonfiction books and over 200 short stories. He has sold 350 million books worldwide and has won numerous awards for his writing. He has a son who is also a writer, a horror writer to be exact, who writes under the name Joe Hill. Alright, so the summary of the book goes as such. An unspeakable crime, a confounding investigation. At a time when the King brand has never been stronger, he has delivered one of the most unsettling and compulsively readable stories. An 11-year-old boy's violated corpse is found in a town park. Eyewitnesses and fingerprints point unmistakably to one of Flint City's most popular citizens. He is Terry Maitland, Little League coach, English teacher, husband and father of 2 girls. Detective Ralph Anderson, whose son Maitland once coached, orders a quick and very public arrest. Maitland has an alibi, but Anderson and the district attorney soon add DNA evidence to the fingerprints and witnesses. Their case seems ironclad. As the investigation expands and horrifying answers begin to emerge, King's propulsive story kicks into high gear, generating strong tension and almost unbearable suspense. Terry Maitland seems like a nice guy, but is he wearing another face? When the answer comes, it will shock you as only Stephen King can. And that is where we're starting. First things first, I kind of adored this book. I haven't enjoyed reading a new book, this much in a very long time. It really drew me in. I had trouble stopping reading it for any amount of time. I was confused, and I loved the characters and I hated the characters. I guess I'll just jump back for a second and say what drew me to the book. There was really nothing in particular. I hadn't read Stephen King in quite a long time, and I had been thinking about picking a few books up. And then I went into the bookstore one day and they were having a 40% off on all Stephen King books. So I picked up this one, I picked up The Institute, and possibly another one, just because they were the ones that drew me the most. And I'm really glad I did. I really enjoyed this book. It was, aside of Stephen King, I hadn't read in a while. When I said I haven't read him lately, but when I go back to the books and short stories of his I had read, this felt kind of like his older things in that I was really drawn in, that I was really intrigued, and I really wanted to continue reading. Some of his later books, when I started reading them, I really didn't feel that way. Like, I really didn't enjoy reading Dolores Claiborne. And I think that was the one that kind of finally broke the camel's back for me, and I stopped reading him. So this really made me want to pick up another Stephen King book. Um, the characters were really well written. They were very human. They had flaws. They they were proud. They were unwilling to admit mistakes. They were open-minded. They were very closed-minded, and they all fit what you would expect from that character at the start of the book. They really carried that through. And it was really just, you felt for them. You could see the stubborn ones, you could see the ones resisting, but you could see the characters that were willing to believe, the characters that were unwilling to believe. And that felt really good because that fit that character. They weren't the ones that were just, no, I'm very even tempered, I'm very hard headed, I'm just going to suddenly make these giant leaps. They were very hesitant. The ones that were more open-minded were willing to listen and willing to let their mind go there. So I really liked how human he wrote the characters. If you are someone that enjoys a tidy ending, this is not the book for you. Did kind of like I said with John Dies at the End, it felt like two books. But this one made sense that it wasn't two books. Like, you could see the delineation in the story. This is the first part of the story, this is the second part of the story. But unlike when John dies at the end, this one, it wasn't difficult for me to continue reading. There were a few tropes seen in other Stephen King books that were pretty predictable. The one thing I really didn't care for in this book was that it felt a little anticlimactic. The ending didn't have as much punch as I would have expected, but I was satisfied overall with it. But that did kind of, and it's still now when I think about it, it does kind of bug me how it ended. It wouldn't keep me from recommending the book to anyone. Unlike some other books that we've talked about, this one was very linear and easy to follow. That was a nice change from some of the other ones I've read. There is some details of the initial crime that are difficult to read, but unlike things I've mentioned in other books, there's no actual reliving the murder. There's no actual reliving the murder. You don't actually learn anything. You don't see anything from the killer's perspective. You don't see anything from the child's perspective. It's just details. And the details are horrifying. But I don't, now that I say that, it is upsetting to read. Let's just be honest, it was upsetting to read. And it does kind of turn your stomach just as a human being with a heart and soul. So maybe there should be a trigger warning. Maybe there is a trigger warning. If you're sensitive to that sort of thing, definitely skip past all reference to the murder or find another book. But it is honestly a very good book. And what else could I tell you? It was a little slow to get to the actual other outsider part of the story. It felt like that could have happened in a quicker fashion, a way that actually kind of brought it to the forefront sooner. There were hints about it, probably about a third of the way into the book, and it really took a long time to actually get to this more supernaturally part. And that was one of the few things I really did enjoy about the book. Like I said before, I really enjoyed reading it. I do think it's a book that you can reread and see more each time you do. So I think it is probably one of, if not my favorite Stephen King book. I've read probably close to a dozen of them. Most of them are older, like I'm talking It, Shining, Misery, Needful Things, Dreamcatcher, that sort of was kind of where I ended reading his stories. Didn't read a lot newer than that. I've read so few I can't actually remember the name of one at the moment. But yeah, this was just a really wonderful, enjoyable reading experience for me. And I am excited to move on to my next book. This is a reread, and it is, if you can even see that because this is at a very odd angle at the moment, but it is Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I have not read a lot of Margaret Atwood books, but of the few I've read, this is my favorite. And again, I haven't read it in probably 7 or 8 years, so I am excited for that. And thank you all for tuning in. I am sorry that it has taken me so long to get here. After Oryx and Crake, I am wondering if you would be interested in me doing a brief overview of an entire series that I've read, or if you want to keep going with the new reread model. So let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you all soon, hopefully. Bye.